I'll get the answer, and through her, it will come back to you, right? Because, I don't know everything, and I don't profess to know everything, right? But on a lighter note, Princestown is kind of, growing up as a young man, I used to come and spend vacation up here all the time in Cragnish in the breeding unit. I don't know if some of you all may know, the guy, Mr. Ali, he used to make cutlass and so on. Yeah? Right, so I'm hearing some a lady in the back saying, yes, they know Mr. Ali. So he had the keys for the farm back then in the breeding unit, and he used to make cutlass and then we would walk from there, the breeding unit, and come and go to the bakery down the road there on that side street there. I don't know if the bakery is still existing. Right, in the town itself on that side street. Yeah, yeah. Not existing again, right? And we eating, by the time we reach home, one quart finish, right? Right, so as Kemi said, my name is Brian Bechu. I am a senior commercial officer in the commercial department in TNTech, right? The commercial department is responsible for all the service centers or the service outlets that you will go and pay your light bills and so on. And we're responsible for customer service. So when Kemi asked us to come and do this presentation, we were wondering how are we going to bring this across to the public, right? So what I did, I prepared something. So I'm going to give you an overview of what we do and then get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff that you guys might have concerns about. All right, so I'm going to talk about if the light bill is on a deceased name, how we go about transferring, if you want a new connection, how the documents you need. Then I'm going to also touch on things that the Ministry of Public Utilities offer to senior citizens and the benefits and some of the programs that they have, right? Like the electrification program and so on. Then I'm going to also talk about the RIC. So the RIC is like the watchdog for utilities in Trinidad and Tobago. So you all would have heard that word before, right? The Regulated Industries Commission. So I'm just going to give you, my whole session this evening would be based on these things. Okay, we good? I don't know if you want to ask the questions one time, just raise your hand as you have a question as I go along, right? Because you may not remember the question later on. Nice? So we're going to start off, guys. We have everybody good this evening? All right. So we starting, guys, with the TNTech's vision statement. And the vision statement is powering the nation into the next generation, right? And the mission statement is to deliver world-class electricity service through engaged and empowered employees using clean, sustainable energy, technological advanced systems, and a highly reliable, safe, and modern electrical grid. So this is the big picture here. This is the Commission's mission and vision. Coming out of this, the commercial department now have a certain portion, and we took a fraction of that, and we have our own mission statement and objectives. Okay? Right. So the commercial mission statement reads, you all seeing? Right. To coordinate and to ensure the efficient administration of accounts and transactions relating to the provision of light and power and other services, including the fostering of favorable customer commission relations. So basically what that means, guys, is the commercial department is responsible for the billing of people on time in a timely manner so that we could collect our revenue, right? So we could develop the country, as well as to ensure that we have proper customer service, right? I know sometimes you might go to a service center and you may not get proper customer service, but we strive to give excellent customer service all the time, all right? And if it is, you all go to a customer service center and you get bad service, please report it so we could deal with it, right? Because our CSR is supposed to be offering proper and efficient, effective customer service all the time. I mean, yes, some days people might have a bad day, a bad morning, and so on and so on. We're all humans, right? So, but yes, you're supposed to be doing that all the time. All right, a couple of our objectives: to provide industrial, residential, commercial, street lighting, and pole rental customers with invoices for payment of services provided by the Commission on a timely manner. So we have various types, different types of customers, right? You guys will just be familiar with a residential, like your house, as well as businesses. But there are also other types of customers that we're going to go into as well as the program goes on, right? So we have street lighting customers, pole rental customers, and so on. So our first objective is to bill these people on time so that we could collect on time, to maintain a minimal level of high quality of receivables. So that basically means, we try our very best to collect our monies, right, in a timely manner. And that's why we depend on the customers to come in and pay, To ensure the efficiency of collection systems and procedures, and to ensure the efficiency of services offered in the service outlets of the Commission. So I spoke to that before, right? When you go to a service center, it's important that the CSRs attend to the customers and you're not seeing them on the phone and things like that. Now, we always talk to our CSRs when we have monthly meetings with them to ensure that they don't do these things. Because when you go to a service center, you would want to see that everybody is paying attention and giving you the attention that you deserve, right? For any time you see somebody on the phone and you sit down waiting and, you get frustrated and you get angry, So some of our key responsibilities: timely billing and collection of all light and power and other accounts. So what light and power means is that is the jargon we use for the electricity that you use. It's called light and power account. So your light bill is a light and power account. But the person who pays for renting the pole, that is a pole rental customer, right? Right. So I will come to that shortly, Pastor. But it's a process where you have to apply. Normally, who rent the poles are up here is Diversified or Airlink? What's the cable company up here? Is Airlink? Right? So pole rental, is for customers who would put things on our poles and they would rent it. So they pay, like the cable company, they run their cable on our poles. Yeah. So no, I explained it one time. So they pay for attaching that cable to our pole, right? And along the way, they have what is called receivers or repeaters. And they also pay for that when they put that on our poles. So those are pole rental customers.
Okay, another question.
Mm-hmm.
But today, for instance, we had to do some, my son, we had to buy new pole and
Right.
if a company come in to run the wire on that pole, how does it benefit since we pay?
So there is something called the capital. So the monies that you would have paid is called capital contribution, right? And over time, if somebody else come to get electricity, so let's say you're living on a side street and you paid for the poles to go all the way down. If anybody come and bill before that and get connection off of that, once it's within 10 years, you will get back a portion of the monies that you would have put out, right? Now, so anybody's coming to get a supply off of what you initially paid for, over time, you will get back some of the money. And that's a new policy that the RIC introduced. It's not very new, but long ago, I don't know if you all remember, I remember in the street where I lived down in Pinal, the man who was living up on the hill, he was a wealthy-ish guy, so he paid for running all the poles on the street, more than quarter mile, and he got back nothing. But over time, people come and build houses and they get, lights off of his sweat. The RIC has since changed that policy, and they call it a reimbursement policy. Yeah? So let's say you put out your 100,000. Over time, once it's within 10 years that people come and build, portion of that money will come back to you. TNTech will pay you back, right? That customer will pay us, and we will then cut a check for you. Yeah? No. The transformer is solely for you. Now, if we, okay, so I think you're referring like to the transformers on the pole.
No, but if no, for the same consideration, like because let us say a new area, like a person building in an area that is a person that is building their home in an area that is not populated.
Right.
So you have to extend electricity to that area
Right.
by planting
Poles
poles.
and-
then sometimes they may come and say you need to put
A transformer, right.
that increase the voltage,
Right,
etc.
right.
Now those transformers, when you pay for it,
Mm-hmm.
what happens after that?
So, although it is not your transformer, right? Although you are paying, right? And what you are paying is what is called, what we term the capital contribution, right? So, in a sense, the figure that TNTech gives you when they do their estimate, the utilization section do their estimates and so on, and they say you need to pay, let's say $50,000, that includes everything. Right? So although you paid for it, it is not yours. It is the commission's one, right? Because if something go wrong, we need to come and repair it and whatnot. So you would normally sign what is called a relinquishment letter. But you are paying for us to put down the infrastructure. Now, we don't make any profit on that. It is the cost, whatever we paid for the transformer, that or the wires and whatnot, that is what the estimating program calculates for the customer, and then they calculate something called revenue generation. So the system will say, if we know that the street that you are talking about over time, okay, so there's room for 10 houses or 20 houses in time to come. It will factor in all of that. The system does that for you, and that, after that, it spits out the cost that you, the customer, has to pay. Right? So I hope I answered your question. Did I?
Yeah, you did.
All right.
I just always
Think
found
it's
that-
yours.
Yeah, that you get a rebate just like when
Right,
you put on the
yeah.
pole.
Right.
No, I mean you get a rebate like when you pay for the pole and then people come and get supply of the pole, and
Right.
I thought the same would have applied to the transformers.
Well, you see, okay, so remember the transformer would have been part of the cost that you would have paid initially. So basically, what you paid is for the entire infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
So, and the transformer is a fraction of that,
Right.
you know?
Okay.
And similarly, right, when some, like let's say people get in low voltage, like a grocery or something, get in low voltage, and they need to pay for a transformer, it is not their transformer because we can give other people supply from that. Yeah? All right. So the other one, huh? Right, so to maintain commission-wide consistency of systems relating to customer administrative services, to ensure the efficiency of services offered in the service outlets of the commission, and to promote positive customer relations. So what these 3 points speak to, guys, is we try to develop consistency in all, well, not we try to, right? We put in place systems where there's going to be consistent customer service throughout. So, for example, you go to Rio Claro office and you wanted to find out, how do I go about transferring an account? Or how do I go about getting a new connection, right? And the person up there tell you one thing. When you go to San Fernando now, they're telling you something else, right? So you all understand what I'm saying, right? Right. So we keep, and that's why we have standard procedures, and everybody's supposed to be, you know, following it. So if they tell me something up there, when I go down the road, it's supposed to be the same thing that you're hearing. Or let's say, you know, that whatever they tell you, you walk with all those documents. And you go down the road now to our next service center, they say, well, you need to bring this or you need to bring that, right? So these objectives, this last 3, speaks to that, where we are trying to instill in the CSRs consistency. And how that comes about is by they learning and having the knowledge. Now, mind you, the CSR, anytime they don't know something, you know, the onus is on them to go and talk to the supervisor, right? Because the supervisor would have certain authority to make certain decisions, right? Because not every situation is clear-cut, right? In terms, let's say, and I digressing a little bit, like ownership documents. People living on land and they have no papers, right? For example, in Moruga, there's a lot of something called miners' property, where property was handed down, and there's really no paperwork, to show, right, who have proper title to certain, property. But once you come in and you speak to somebody, and you tell them what is happening, they might be able to see how best we could assist, right? So that is what these points refer to in terms of efficiency and consistency. Okay, guys? Right. So that was some of our key responsibilities in the commercial department. And this slide shows our office locations, right? The little yellow star, I don't know if you all seen it, is the service centers throughout. So we have 14 service centers throughout Trinidad and Tobago, right? And as you can see, it serves, throughout, right? Right. So this one is a little better in terms of you guys seeing it. So we have 14 service centers throughout Trinidad and Tobago. We have 2 in North. We have Frederick Street, that is the head office, and St. James. So I am at head office based in Port of Spain. And so I take the trek from Tawakit to Port of Spain every day, right? 4:30 on the road, right? And then we have another service center in St. James on Western Main Road. I don't know if you guys know where that outlet is, yeah? And in the east, we have 3 service centers. We have one in Arima on Susano Street. That's in the heart of Arima, near Hearty Foods, I believe. We have one in Sandy Grande, and that is on the corner of Briar and Henderson Street. And then there's one in Curep, just after La Jolla there, or the bridge on the right-hand side, yeah? In Tobago, we have 2. We have Scarborough, that is the main office in Tobago, and we also have a service center in Roxborough. And that one is pretty new, and that is in the administrative complex in Roxborough, right? So the THA built this building. If it's one, you guys went to Tobago and thing? The buildings and the government offices and thing really big and nice, right? And so they wanted to service the eastern side of the island, and they built the complex, and they asked us and other state entities to open centers there or offices so that they could serve the community up on that end. So we opened a service center up there. It's pretty small, but so the people from up Roxborough and on the east side, Delafort, and they will come up there and pay their bills, right? I think it have an inland revenue up there. It have a TT Post in that office, in that complex. So I was up in Tobago, as Kemi said, I was also in Tobago. I was in Tobago when we were opening that service center, In Central, we have 2. We have the Couva Service Center, and that is in the JTA complex on Isaac Junction right there. And then we have another one in Chaguanas, right? And that is in Mid-Center Mall. I don't know if you guys ever went to any of those. And in the South, we have the most service centers, because South has the biggest geographic area of Trinidad, right? So we have one up in San Fernando, down in San Fernando, and that's our main South office. We have Rio Claro, small office there on Enid, in Enid Village on the main road. One in Pinal, Clark Road Junction. We have one in Marabella. So before we were in Gopal Lands, in Pamela Mall, but we moved out to the main road. It's right opposite KFC there. Right? Huh? Yeah? Right? And then we have one in Point Fortin. Right? So these are our 14 service centers. We had another one in Nicholas Towers. Right? So we had 15 before. Right? But then the hierarchy in TNTech said that one is very close to our head office, so we could save some money there. So they closed that one down. Right? Right. So apart from those 14 service centers where you would normally go and conduct your transactions and do your business and pay your bills, we also have other avenues where you could pay your bills, right? And the main one is the commercial banks, right? So you could go to Royal Bank, Scotia Bank, Republic Bank, FCB, and pay your bills, right? So if you're not able to make it to a service center, you have these other avenues to pay. All right, now the thing about that is that it takes a while for that money, a couple days before that money could get to us, right? So if you're disconnected, don't go and pay in the bank and then come to TNTech. Go one time to TNTech and pay, okay? So we could reconnect you quickly. Apart from that, we have Grace Kennedy, or what we call Bill Express, right? Previously, we had SurePay, but that no longer existing, right? So these are other, what we call third-party collection agencies, right? And they collect on behalf of TNTech. We pay them a fee for collecting each money, each transaction that they do for us, they charge us, right? Right now, we are engaging NLCB, right? The lotto machines, you could pay some of your bills there, right? So we are hoping to get that facility as well, right? So, I mean, we have a lot of Playway machines throughout Trinidad and Tobago, so it's easy access for you all, for customers to go and pay, right? And apart from that, we are also looking into introducing the kiosks. Anybody went to Wassa and see the kiosk, right? You ever use it? Yeah? It's quick and nice, especially if you're using your card. So we're looking to introduce that as well, yeah? But I don't know how much, how much turnover, how much people use it. So we're trying to get that data, before we go and expend that money to introduce that kiosk in the service center. Because yes, it might be looking nice, but if it's not really beneficial, because I don't know how much people in Wassa really, how much customers go and use that. I use it when I mean, 2 times I went to Wassa and I use it, and it's pretty simple. Yeah? Right, so that's a little bit on our payment, the avenues in which you could pay, right? And there are also some online avenues as well, which we will touch on later on, right? Where you could stay at home and pay your bills too, right? So this slide shows us the total number of customers we have as TNTech customers. We have 528,867 customers, right? And that is data as of last month, right? To the 1st of August. So in South, well, we started on the left there. On North, we have 97,000 customers. In South, we have 158,000 customers. In Tobago, we have 32,000 customers. In East, we have 144,000 customers. In Central, we have 96,000 customers. And, right? So we're seeing from this slide that South has the most amount of customers, right? So that's the totals down to the bottom. So that's called our customer base. Now, out of that 528,000 customers overall, if we look across the first line, where domestic A, you see out of that 528,000 customers, 467,000 customers are residential customers like you and I, right? 56,000 is commercial customers. 4,000 for industrial customers are 4,298. Now, in all the money that we collect, the industrial, there's 4,000 customers out of the 528,000 customers. That 4,000 customers account for about 55% of our revenue, right? And that is the industrial customers are the very big customers, like the manufacturing customers, all the industries and so on, right? So that 4,000 customers, they bring in about 55% of our revenue on a monthly basis, right? So it's interesting to see how many customers are domestic customers. 467,000 out of the 500, right? So, right, so this slide shows a little bit gives us the information on our customer base, right? Then we have the street lighting customers. We only have 48 of those, and that is really the regional corporations, right? So, as we talk a little bit on that, the corporations are the ones who give the instruction to TNTech to go and install the street lights. So how you go about getting a street light? You just don't go into TNTech. You talk to your counselor. The counselor will bring it to the meeting, the corporation meeting, and then if they say yea or nay, then they will take it forward, and it will go to the Ministry of Public Utilities, and then they will say, okay, go and install street lights for so and so and so. Right? So that's how you go about getting a street light on, on a pole that you don't have, that doesn't have a street light. All right, now, they wouldn't put the street light on a private pole, meaning like a pole, an intermediate pole that leads to your house connection, right? This would be TNTech, the poles on the main road and so on, right? Unmetered supply, that's 27 customers, and those are customers like the Ministry of National Security, where those cameras, you all would have seen, they're installing a set of cameras throughout Trinidad and Tobago, right? So those are unmetered supply, meaning then there is no meter to record how much electricity they use, right? So we just hook them up and they charge a fee, right? And then the pole rental customers, as we talked about the cable companies and so on, right? Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit now. We going okay so far, or boring you all? All right. Right. Good. Tell me when, stop me when I'm boring all here. Say, mister, you stop now, right? All right. So we're talking a little bit about customer types and billing frequency, right? So on this couple of slides, we're going to talk about the different types of customers we have and how often we bill them. So the first one is residential A, and that's where most of us would fall. All right, so the definition of a residential A customer is all domestic and household electricity supplies for use by one family, listen to this carefully here, for use by one family in one residence supplied from 1 meter. Now that is the definition of what we call a rate A customer or a residential customer, right? It's for domestic purpose, 1 meter supplying one family, right, for use, right, for domestic purpose, all right, in one residence. So very often, children will get married, they come and they live in the same house and whatnot and whatnot. If they're living downstairs, right, ideally that shouldn't be a rate, and that shouldn't be rate A, right? But most times it's just 1 meter supply in the whole house, right? Now, it's 2 families or 2 households, right? Because the child have his own family downstairs, right? That's another household, right? Ideally, that's supposed to be rate B, but we don't be checking all of that, right? And when it start to make trouble now about the light bill, then they will look to now go and put a splitter and split the load, so the downstairs, so the child could pay their own bill and upstairs pay their own bill, and it's peace of mind. Yes? Right.
How do you go about
Doing that? Right. So Pastor is asking how we go about doing that. So we call that an upgrade in supply. So you had 1 meter, but now, as the household grow, and you're saying, hey, it's time to split the load. You all say about your own light bill. So you come into TNTech, right, and let them know that you want to install a splitter, right? We would do what is called a request for service, right? Meaning, and then someone would visit you, what we call a consumer investigator. They will come to you, you will explain to them, well, listen, we have this 1 meter, and now we want to put on 2 meters. So they will say, okay, all right, ask you where you want to put it up and so on, and you might say right next to the old one, right? Then you engage your electrician, and you would have to do what is called a load detail, right? Meaning then, a load detail is a document that says what you intend to use, how much washing machine you have, how much AC units, how much fridge, and so on and so on. With that now, they will calculate what is the estimated use of this house now with these 2 meters, right? And if it is plenty, well then that's where my friend here with the transformer, and he had to pay for the transformer, right? Yes?
One question. You say the residential area, right? Residential. So if you are the homeowner,
Right.
and you have children living and you have an
Ex-
apartment next door, but you pay all the bills still, but you just want the children to have that they could
Right.
whatever, and have no current, that wouldn't waiver
Your bills.
your electric, your current then.
Uh-huh.
What do you still call that, residential A?
Well, once it's 1 meter,
One-
right, we would be, I am sure the bill will be rate A or residential. But ideally, I mean, if there's other people, other households in that family, right, it's supposed to be B. But we don't go down to be checking all of that. So a good example, another example of this is, let's say an apartment building, right? You know, some apartment buildings will have different floors, right? And one floor might have 3 apartments. And the landlord now have a meter for each floor, right? So we're talking about 1 floor, and it have 3 apartments. Now, you know it's fully well 3 different people living there, right? And 1 meter supplying that whole floor. That will not be categorized as a rate A. That's supposed to be a B. But I mean, as the lady is saying, you know, we at home, children married, and they come now and they build a little annex or extension to the house and whatnot. TNTech not going to come and watch and see, and, you know, that will be treated as a A, right? But as you talk about the lights flickering and thing, eventually you will start to get low voltage, right? And then you now will have to call the electrician in, and they would give you some advice as to how to upgrade the wiring and split the load to put so that they will have their own meter and you will have your own meter and so on. Okay?
What about people who don't own land, like they live in a colony land?
Right.
Right? You could get
A light?
meter.
Yes, you could. So hold that question. I'm going to come to that later on, right? And I'm going to talk about state lands and so on and how you will go about, right? So we come in there. Okay, ma'am? But remember to ask me the question a little later because I will forget, right? Right. So the residential customers, that little box there shows the cost. Your first 400 units is at 26 cents, right? Next 401 to 1,000 is at 32 cents, and anything over 1,000 units is 37 cents. All right? So the rate A has a tier system, right? The first 400 is at the lowest rate, right? And the reason why the government did it like this is that to help with the less fortunate in society, right? Because there are people in our society that they want electricity, and you wouldn't believe how elated someone does be when they get lights, you know? Because I remember studying with flambeau and lamp, right? And when people get electricity, so I know of a man in Piparo, his name is Lance, right? He lives in a container, right? But he wanted lights. And all this gentleman have is 2 lights and maybe 2 plug. He don't even have a fridge, but he have electricity. And when that gentleman, when I help him to get his supply, you wouldn't believe how happy this fella was. You know, so the point I'm making is that the small amount of units, right? Because the average person, let's say they only have about 2 or 3 lights in their house. You know, those are people who are on the poverty line, right? So government did this tier system like that, right? So that if you're a light bill, if you're not using plenty electricity, then you pay the lower rate, right? And as we go up the tier, you see it's higher, like greater than 1,000 units, 37 cents. So we who have AC and can't sleep without the AC and whatnot, we will pay most of the thing at the 37 cents, right? So the next one is rate B, right? And in addition to that, you have to pay a customer charge, which is $6, okay? Now, this is bi-monthly, right? A residential customer is billed bi-monthly, meaning every 2 months, or a 60-day cycle. Now, with the rate increase, now the government, new administration say they ain't bringing no rate increase, right? So we happy for that. Well, us, right? So I put myself in your shoe now, right? Because we are all residents, right? But part of the proposal is to bill you monthly, you know? So everything will half, right? But for now, it's bi-monthly or every 2 months, right? Miss Lady, you hearing me down there? All right, good. So the other type of customer we have is what we call a commercial or a rate B customer, right? So remember the definition for residential or rate A, right? One household using 1 meter in one residence for domestic purposes. A commercial rate B, electricity supply for purposes other than domestic and household in a single installation supplied from 1 meter. So anytime you're doing anything other than residential purpose or domestic purposes, it's supposed to be classified as a rate B. So you know very often, you know, as time go by, you might build a little something in front of the house and put up a little parlor and start to sell thing, and you take a drop from the inside, right? Long ago when we had meter men, you know, they would come, when they come and they read the meter, they will record here, parlor existing, and so on, or somebody have a machine shop, or some welding going on and things like that. And that is how we would know when people change the use of the supply, right? And we would come now and investigate and change the rate, and right here, and we will change the rate. Yes, Pastor?
You all do have meter men again.
No. Right. So how we read the meter, so that's the point I was going to make. Now that, you know, a while now we started to read the meters remotely, right? It's called AMI system, where those meters send a signal and we get the reading. Although you see in the meter blank, it still signals through a modem or what we call a transponder, and that's how we get the reading. So because of that, you know, as the meter readers retire and so on, the commission have not rehired meter readers because they read the meters remotely. So it has its advantages, but it has the disadvantage. Wouldn't know now in the office when you build a parlor and you start to use the current to sell sweetie and palette and thing, right? It's only when, and you know how we just pick up most of these things? It's when somebody call and say, or if an inspector or investigator go out there to do something and they observe it, that's how we will get the report and investigate. But sometimes to your own neighbor to just call and say, look, so, you know. Yeah? Yeah. So that's why it's important to be good with your neighbor, eh? Living good with your neighbor. Right? So that's another reason. Uh-huh.
So you spoke about the residential and the commercial rates,
Right.
right? Now you spoke about residential with 1 meter and for domestic purpose. But let's say you live in a house,
Mm-hmm.
and for whatever reason you have 2 meters.
Right.
Does that automatically put you into the conversion? So let's say
No.
you have 2 sets of
Ri-
properties living in the same
No.
home.
Right? Once those 2 meters, once the supply is used for domestic purposes, both of them will be rate A. Right? So like the lady talked about the annex, right? Once it's for domestic purposes, it will be rate A. Right? And it could even go on. So remember I brought the example of the apartment building with the 3 apartments on the floor, right? So with that 1 meter, that will be rate B. But if it is the gentleman had a meter for each apartment, they will all be rate A. Yeah, they will all be rate A. All right, so we good? Yeah. It clear up something there now? I see the young lady say, oh, all right. So I touch on something there, right? So it kind of cleared that up. Yes. So that is why you see some newer apartment buildings, they have what we call a splitter bank. And it have 10 and 15 meters. So each one of those apartments have its own meter. So they will all be residential. Yeah? Good. So the commercial or the rate B is anything other than for domestic purposes. All right? Now, so like church and so on, Pastor. Let's be rate B, yeah? Yeah. Right. So the charge or the rate, I should say, or the tariff for a domestic commercial is 41 cents, 0.415, and there's no tier system with the commercial customers, right? And the customer charge is $25. Okay, guys? Right, and underneath there I have that the classes, these two type of customers are billed bi-monthly, right?
Okay, I know. Okay, well, we have a splitter
Mm-hmm.
for both upstairs and downstairs.
Right,
But we are still
rate B, yes. Both, because it's not used for residential purposes. So you know your downstairs might be your office or whatever, but the entire building is commercial, right? When I stand on this side, you're still able to, yeah? All right. So we're gonna continue talking about some other types of customers, guys. And the next one is the industrial customers. Now we have different classes in industrial. The first one is called the B1, and those are like churches, bigger churches, and recreational grounds and so on. Because you also, a couple years ago, our government started to light up all these rec grounds and so on. We charge them on what is called a B1 customer, right? We still classify them under industrial, but B1, meaning then that they don't pay. Now, our industrial customer pays two rates, right? What we call KVA and KWH. So when we pay our light bill, that is KWH, kilowatt hours, right? But industrial customer have two set of billing that they need to pay for, and I'll explain why later on. You have KVA, kilovolt, and kilowatt hours, right? So the industrial customers, we have different classes. We have from D1 to D4, and examples of D1 and D2 customers are like supermarkets, right? So these are customers that burn in over 50,000 kilowatt hours every 2 months, right? So we classify them as an industrial customer, right? And they pay, as I said, for KVA and KWH, right? So, and the reason for that, KVA, and they also have to pay for something called shortfall, right? What that means is when you build your structure and your electrician come and say, they're going to put down this set of equipment and that set of equipment, and the TNTech do the calculations, they say, okay, you will need 3 transformer, so on, so on, so. They will calculate, and we put down that infrastructure for you. Lo and behold, you may not be using all of that, but because you said you want it, you have to pay for it. So what you don't use, you still have to pay through what is called shortfall, right? But that is not for us. We are small people. That's for the big industrial customers, right? Like the big supermarket and the large offices and so on. We good, guys? Yes. Right. And then now we have what is called D3 and above. So these are larger companies, right? So like large manufacturers, like Wassa pump stations, and some names that we might be familiar with, Metal and Air Liquide and things. So that's in Point Lisa's industrial estate. So those are customers D3 and above, right? Big customers. Then we have some even bigger customers called type E, E1 to E5. And those are examples of that. So Petrotrin, when Petrotrin was existing, Petrotrin was our largest customer, right, when it was functioning. And another example of it is methanol and Desalcut, right? So these are our bigger customers, right? And very soon, well, we're hearing that metal might come back up, the steel plant might come back up, right? So they would use a lot of electricity, and they will fall into that E bracket as well. Yeah? So these are some examples of customers that use what we call light and power, right? The big ones, the industrial ones, the Ds, so it moved from Ds to Es, right? Then we have another type of customer called the street lighting customers. And those are the regional corporations and THA, right? Because all the street lights that hang on these poles is the corporation that pays for it, right? Sometimes the Ministry of Public Utilities pay for them. They work out the business, right? And as well as THA, right? So that's our street lighting customers. We have, so the street lighting customers are normally public entities. in Tobago, we have one private street lighting customer. This was a gentleman, a person or a company that did a development and time to pay for the street lights now, thinking THA would take it over. They said no, they wasn't going to take it over. So the gentleman, we had to still light up the place because, I mean, when the street light out by us, you know, you see how dark the places be, right? And now in these times and ages, everybody wants street light, right? So the developer decided that they will put in the street lights. So that is a private entity, right? That is a street lighting customer. Then we have miscellaneous customers, and these are like the pole rental customers, right? And as I said, that is like Flow and Digicel, and it up here, and the local cable company up here is Airlink, right? It's Airlink, right? And RVR too, right? Yeah, I have RVR and all. How will you find RVR service? That's good. Not too good? Well, yeah, huh? Sometimes? Okay. But the cable, all right, yeah, it has dropped sometime, but I find we losing too much channels now, man. You know? Yeah, so we probably had to talk to Debadine and they up in Rio Claro. Yeah, that's the people who own RVR. You have a link here. Right, and I know in Mayaro, it have Network Technologies. That's Rushton Parry one. Yeah, so the cable companies are the ones who are the pole rental customers, right? And we also rent what we call dark fiber, right? So Digicel and Flow will rent that from us. So we have fiber optics running on the poles, some of the poles, and those companies rent space and rent the cable from us, the fiber optics. Right, so this is another way, a newer way that we try to get additional revenue, right? Now these customers are billed every month, right? Where the residential or the D&G customers, residential and commercial, they are billed bi-monthly. These are billed every month, right? Right. So we're now getting into some of the transactions that we offer at the service centers. So basically what we're going to talk about here now is a different type of business you could go into an office and conduct, right? So a new connection, right? If you build your house, you want electricity for the first time, that is called a new connection. You conduct that transaction in a service center, right? If you want to transfer an account, you do that there. Disconnection, reconnection. So let's say for some reason, you want to do some upgrade or the dashboard rotten and you have to change the dashboard. You disconnect, you come to TNTech, organize, disconnect, you fix up it, and we come back and we reconnect you in the evening. Guys, disconnection, reconnection, you report your meter damage, we come and we change it. Reposition of meter. Like the lady who want to put on the splitter so she son could pay his own bill, right? Reposition the meter. Yeah, I commented that. I'm going into all of them in detail shortly, right? So we build in. I hope all you with me, right? All you, right. And we understand the stories. A story we build in here, right? We're going to take whole evening. I hope not, right? Check meter report. So let's say, you find your meter fast. It's spinning fast. Your bill getting high. You could come in and make a query to check your meter. So the RIC long ago, the customer had one free test every 5 years, right? But now the place is so hot, everybody putting in AC units, right? And the bill going up, right? But when they see the bill now, moms, oh God, all you cut off that AC, cut off that AC, right? We got to stay with the fan alone, right? But a lot of people installing AC, and when they see the bill, they're amazed to know how high this bill will jump, right? And the first thing they do is come into TNTech and say, hey, the meter ain't working good. Come and check it, right? And when we test the meter all the time, very rare you will get a meter that is not testing accurate. And these meters test, so it have two things on, high load and what we call low load, right? Most times they hit in 100% or 99.9% accuracy, right? And customers now know that they are allowed one free test every 4 years. So if it is, so you will have one free test, we record it on the system, so in case you come back 2 years down the road, hey, my meter is working good, let's come and check this thing. When we check the system, well, hello, if we test and it good, you have to pay, right? So meter check, change rate, right? Let's say, for example, you had a parlor running, or you had some business downstairs, and you was on commercial rate. Now everything convert to rate A. You come in and you tell us, we will come and investigate and change the rate for you. Now, very often this happens, right? You have business going on downstairs, business out, now no longer there, but you leave the sign up by the road. When our investigators come and they see that, right, they will come back and say, no, it still have a sign outside, right? So it will remain as a rate B. In order for us to change that rate, you need to repurpose the whole structure, remove the sign and whatnot, because you know what? You know how Chinny Bright? We put it to rate B, to rate A, and by the time next one bill go, somebody else come on the renting and business going on there, right? You could also conduct billing queries. So as I said, people, when they come to query the bill high and so on, you do that in the service center, right? So these are some of the transactions you will conduct in any of our service centers. Right, so we're gonna, as I said, we're gonna go into a little more details into some of the things, right? So the first transaction was a new connection, right? So this is you connecting for the first time, right? So the term new connection refers to a situation where a property is being provided with a supply of electricity for the first time, or where a connection already exists and the customer has rewired to accommodate additional meters, all right? So a new connection is a situation where a house or a structure getting lights for the very first time, right? So the requirements now, proof of ownership. What that means, things like your deed, certificate of title, your mortgage deed, right? And for state land, certificate of comfort, and so on, right? So to get a new connection, you must have proof of ownership. That's the first item, right? And as I said, it could be in the form of a deed, a mortgage deed, a deed of gift, a deed of assent, things like that. Now, it has situations where people doesn't have proper title, right? But the law states that if you are occupying somewhere for more than 16 years, right, they can't really move you, right? Now, if you are on state lands, we can assist when you get in a supply of electricity. The cabinet note, there was a cabinet note back in 2016 that directs TNTEC and WASA to give people a supply, right, utilizing what is called a statutory declaration, right? So in cases like that, you come in, we give you the information, you go to a JP, and you swear to saying you're living on the land so long and some now. You have to swear to truthful things, right? Because people go and build a shack somewhere, 1-2 years, and then go and swear they're living there 20 years now, right? So you go and you're swearing by a JP for all these things, and there's something called an indemnity clause that we want you to have in there, stating you go and swear that it's state lands. The next thing you know, that's private lands, and we have now get embroiled and entangled in a legal thing because the owner, the real owner now, coming in, how will you could give this man supply? I didn't give him permission. When we check now, the man swear he on state lands. Now, if it's a new connection, like let me say maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years, something, we write you and say, hey, Mr. So-and-so say you're on his land, you know, the owner's proof now is on you, the customer, because you swear saying you're on state lands. And if you can't prove that you're really on state land, then we will disconnect you. Right? So then you need to go and get something from land settlement, some paper saying that you're really on state lands. You understand? Right. So, young lady, the red, right, you were, yeah, and you were asking about the new connection. Transfer, right. So we come into that. Right. So the first thing, in order for you to obtain a supply of electricity, is your ownership documents, right? There are also, like I talk about in Maruga, where we have miners' property, right? And the deeds and so on, and the Crown Grant paper that they would have had back in the day, when, and some of the younger generation, they living on the land, they born and grow there and whatnot. When they come in, we look at what they have, you know, and we would allow them to do an affidavit to get a supply. Because a lot of people living in Trinidad and Tobago, and they really do have genuine paper or bona fide title paper for the property, you know, and you would have built your house, renovate the house, build a big concrete house, and you want to expand, and you want to, you know, develop in life, right? So, I mean, once you speak a CSR in the event that a CSR not able to help you, you know, ask to speak to the supervisor, right, and explain, because, you know, they would kind of reason, look at the situation, reason it out, right, and see how best we could help somebody. Now, our job is to help the customers, right? My mantra is, and as I talked about before, the fellow who get his supply electricity for the first time, you know, and when people has been so grateful, and I'm saying this, Mister, what I owe you? What I owe you for this? And I would tell them, just say thank you. You know, I remember once I helped a guy up in Tabaquite, I live Tabaquite, a farmer, right? He said, well, you know, so he got the supply. So much trouble he was saying, he got the supply. Next thing you know, my partner said, hey, look, Rambo dropped something for you here. When I go on, one set of dashing bush and bygone and okra and all kind of chili pepper and thing. But you know what? That's gratitude. They so appreciate the fact that, you know, they get the supply, right? But I just get joy and pride in helping people and seeing, and that's why I tell them, just say thank you. At time I help a lady to transfer an account. She get in so much trouble. I teach a lady in some Anglican school. And the lady called me after. I never see the lady, but on the phone, the principal tell me, see what I could do to help the lady, listen to the situation. And as I say, you know, when you lay out, you come and you tell me the truth. And we could see how best we could help, right? I was able to, you know, let the lady do an affidavit and get the lights transferred on the deceased mother or grandparents' name for so long. And, you know, but helping people is important, you know? Yeah, no. I'd stand up here so I could get the AC. But I was wondering if the camera was picking me up here, but he said I'm good, right? So the other item we need is 2 forms of ID, right? We would accept one, right? Because a lot of people, all they have is their ID card, you know. They don't have a passport, they don't have a driver's permit, but we use 2 forms of ID. Then you pay what is called a refundable service deposit of $95, right? And an approved request for service application. What is a request for service application? So, like I was saying earlier, when you want to get a supply, you come in, you make the request, you walk with your documents. So before you actually get a connection, we have to come out and see what we connecting, how you're getting the supply, and so on, right? So the first thing you do is called a request for service, right? Now the CI or the consumer investigator will come out and say, okay, the pole is within a connecting distance of 150 feet, right? It's not crossing anybody property, it's not crossing no road. Things like that is what they come in to check to see if you could get the supply, right? So once they say, okay to connect, You get your inspection certificate. Well, then you come to us in the service center, and we will do up the paperwork. You will now sign your contract, and by the evening time, you get lights in the house. Yeah? Now, recently, about 8 months ago, we introduced something called a new connection questionnaire. So we're trying now to give people lights faster. We're trying that a long time, right? Because the faster you get your supply, the faster that meter running and spinning, and we will get our revenue. All right? So, and it have plenty electricity being generated there in TGU down in Labre that is unused, right? So we need to get people, give people supply. So we introduced something called the new connection questionnaire, or what we call a direct connection. So if it's a straightforward thing, the pole there, your house right here is within connecting distance, which is less than 150 feet. We're not crossing nothing. Yes, you could get your connection, and you don't have to wait for the CI or the consumer investigator to come out. So what we introduced was asking the customer some questions. How far the pole is, if it have, what kind of dashboard you have, if it's metal, if you have thing welded up to accommodate the connection, it crossing anybody's property and whatnot and whatnot. And by you answering yes, no, we will know if that we could go out there and connect you. But Trinidad again, they're so bright, they know the answer for everything so that the paper could go through and the crew will come and connect you. Excuse me. When the connection crew come out there now, seeing this thing across the road or 200 feet away and whatnot, you wouldn't get you. Right? So we try that, we still have it, right? And 1 or 2 people will get their connection faster, right? And we would eliminate some of the red tape. So you must have a approved request for service, all right, in order to get the connection, all right? So we're looking at something else. Yes?
So I am building my daughter's downstairs. Now this is on family land.
Mm-hmm.
We have had it since my grandfather.
Right.
So I'm building upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So he has all his connection and everything for how much
Downstairs.
years? Downstairs.
Right.
So I will have to do a new meter
Right.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
I will have to get what
Us.
normally if I have to do any paperwork, I will have to get an authorization letter.
Right.
Would
So
I have to get that because the land we don't really have the deed because it's so much family in that
right.
street.
So
Right now it's in the court trying to get
to,
documents for every family.
to section it off and everybody go get a portion.
Yes. So
Right.
what we normally have to do is authorization letter stating that I lived there for X amount of years
Mhm.
and my father would have to sign a paper stating that he allowing me to
Right.
build or to do certain things.
Right.
Would I have to get an authorization letter
Yes, you would.
for him? So you'll provide that too?
No, well, yes, we have templates in the office that you could go and get, right? But basically it says, I so-and-so have no objections. But the thing about it is that more than likely for now, until the parcel that you all are living on, as your dad have the lights on his name downstairs, more than likely, and he doesn't have proper title, it would be easier for him to get the supply upstairs for you, right? So in other words, and I'm saying, but it will be easier for him to put it on his name, right? Until in time, no, in time you will transfer it over because as soon as the paperwork is settled up and everybody have their portion and you all have the paper, more than likely that portion might go to your dad, right?
Yeah.
Right, so he could then do the authorization to transfer the bill to your name.
Okay.
All right? So all is not lost. All right?
Okay, thanks.
Good. All right. So for companies, it's a little different, a little more complicated. Company requirements for new connection, proof of ownership again, a valid ID card for a director, the notice of directors, right? And that shows who the directors in the company are, so that whoever is writing the letter, we know that that person is really bona fide and authorized to do the letter. You have an approved request for service again. We talk about that. Then you need to have a letter authorizing the person coming to do the business on behalf of the company, right? You must have the ID card for the person who writing that letter, certificate of incorporation. Yeah. Thanks, Kim. The company rubber stamp or seal, a conditional supply letter, and an inspection, approved inspection certificate, right? So even for residential, you need to have a valid inspection certificate, right? So the process is this. You come in, you make your application, and that is the service, the request for service. Once that is approved, your electrician will organize with the inspectorate to come. They pass the house, as we would say, right? They will give you, issue an inspection certificate. You come into TNTech now with that, right? Your ID card and $95. By then, you would have already brought in your ownership documents and so on, and you pay for your connection, right? So we don't connect anybody unless the inspectorate say yes, right? By you getting a valid inspection certificate, right? So this is it for companies. We're going to speak a little bit about a temporary connection, right? So you know when you're building your house, you would want a supply to do the chop saw and whatnot, right? So most times, people will come and apply for a temporary supply, right? And that is where you put up the pole, we connect you, and on that pole have the meter base, and it have some plugs, a 50 amp plug for them to weld up the roof and so on, and the normal plugs for the saw and thing, right? So that's a temporary supply, right? Same sort of requirements, proof of ownership, ID card, approved service, request for service, inspection certificate. But in this case, you have the service deposit is no longer $95, $150. And there's something called a major contracting fee, and that's about $3,000. Now, the difference in a temporary supply and a permanent supply, remember I said the permanent one with service deposit was $95, right? A temporary supply or temporary certificate is only valid for 3 months. And every 3 months, you have to go and get that renewed and bring it back to us. Now, a temporary supply is really valid for 1 year, meaning the length of time you could keep it temporary then is for 1 year, right? And the reason behind the service deposit being $150 and you have to pay the major contracting cost is because when we give somebody supply, we expect revenue from that for a long, long, long time. But with a temporary supply, that is not the case because you just wanted that supply for a short period of time. Okay? So that's why you have to pay what is called a major contracting cost. And that is the cost really for us to come and connect you and then come and remove everything when you're ready, right? When you're finished. So people will do that when they're building their house, right? So the workmen could get the supply. And when the house finish and you wire up the house and you pass inspection, it moves now from temporary to permanent. Now, one thing I should mention, the temporary supply is rate B. Yeah, and not residential. Now, remember the definition of residential? Using for domestic purposes, right? A temporary supply, the reason why it's rate B is you're not using it for residential or domestic purposes just yet, right? So that is billed as a rate B. Okay? Yeah?
For the major contracting fee,
Uh-huh.
for temporary supply,
Yeah.
later down the road, you will get revenue
Mm-hmm.
from the structure that is being built.
Yes.
So to have a big fee,
Right.
right, because you're not getting any revenue, to me is a fallacy.
No, but you see, okay, the thing about it is, right, the difference with if you come to be permanent on the onset, we know when we putting down that connection there, that going for life, right? However, the temporary, now in the case of yes, you construct the house and then you're going to get the permanent supply. We don't know, right? Because there might be, I mean, okay, so there might be
Legal
instances.
issues
Huh? Legal issues. But apart from that, people want a temporary supply not only to build house, right, for other things. So we don't know how long we are going to generate revenue from that. And that's why there's that cost. So, and we have to send the crew to connect you. And then no sooner we have to come now because you no longer need the supply. So let's say somebody was doing something and they wanted something like a site office, right? Some kind of thing, and, all right? And you know that may not be for very long, right? In the instance of a house, yes, but we don't know that a temporary supply is going to be used just in the case of construction of a house all the time. So that's why they had that fee there. Because it's a temporary thing where we don't, your intention is not to generate revenue for a long time in that instance, right? So that's why they have that major contracting fee there, right? And so it's one for all, and you understand, right? But I get your point, right? And it's a valid point, right? But the RIC can't, cater for every single scenario. Right? Now, mind you, all these things that we charge and whatnot, that has to be sanctioned by the RIC. Yeah? Lady in yellow, you wanted to ask?
No, I was going to ask you what is your TNTech mission there? If they have a mission statement.
Yeah, we started off.
Because I came in a little
Oh, you
late,
came
so I
in
didn't,
right.
hear it. Can you repeat it?
Well, I had to go back. So what slide is?
Okay, well, I'll get it after.
Right, okay.
I just
When we
wanted to know
no,
if
so
it's
I
in the
opened with that,
business.
ma'am. Yeah, we in the business?
I just want to know if it's in the business of making money.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah?
Just quickly, if you walk up there, now somebody was building a house and she had a date. They gave her a date that if she didn't finish the house by then, supply would have been removed. Or I think she needs to reapply to get it.
No, not reapply, to get the inspection renewed.
Well, some renewal.
Yeah. So as I said, inspection, a temporary supply certificate is valid for 3 months. 3 months. So sometimes, your house might take longer than 3 months. You need to make it your business and let your electrician go and get a new certificate, and you find yourself in TNTech and say, hey, look, I have my renewed certificate. Otherwise, yes, we will come and disconnect. No. Once you bring your inspection, once you bring your inspection certificate on time, we just update the system and you're good for the next 3 months. Yeah? Up to a year. But no, there are cases, now on paper it's up to a year, but there are cases where people might have a temporary supply for longer than that. Right? Once they bring in their inspection certificate, to renew it. Now, as the 3 months up, we wouldn't come on the next day or the next week to cut here. We just give you a little time, right? So most time we will make a phone call to you, hey, your inspection certificate expire, you need to bring in a new one. But when people not taking heed and, doing the thing, is then we'll be forced then to come out and disconnect you, right? All right. Hi.
So this may sound like a real old question, but I ask it again. Is it possible then, because I'm hearing about major contractor rates, I'm hearing about, the time period that you would have to construct, but there are some people who construct their homes piecemeal.
Right.
Is it possible to have a permanent connection before you have the house up?
That depends on whether the inspectorate will give you the permanent certificate, right? And I think in most instances, and don't quote me on this, right, because I'm not working now. The government electrical inspectorate is separate from TNTech, guys, right? They would know you must have doors and windows and things like that, a proper functioning kitchen and so on, in order for you to get a permanent certificate. So you are quite right, but it's the inspectorate to say if they will issue a permanent. Yeah? We good, guys? Yeah. All right, moving on. Right. Temporary connection for companies, it more or less is the same as permanent for company. All right, so I ain't going to go too much into that. So this really is the specifications for the pole, right? But I know we can't see that because we are 2020 vision again. But you will get the specifications when you come into the office, to make the request, the clerks will give you the specifications that you require for the pool, right? Right, transferring an account, lady in red. Yes. So the transferring of an account is the process of changing the name on the account from one account holder to another. All right? So that's, we transferring the light bill. Okay? And it could happen in different instances. A previous owner to a new owner. So you sell your property, right? And the new person coming now to transfer the light bill. So the light bill was on my name, I sell to you, you come in with your new deed and so on and transfer the bill. It could also go from owner to tenant, right? A transfer would be there. So you go to rent an apartment, the landlord would give you a letter to come in and put the light bill on your name, right? Because when you run up the light bill on the landlord name, they're responsible. Yeah? So they very often transfer the bill onto the tenant's name, right? From tenant to tenant. So sometimes the landlord don't put it on their name at all. They move it from tenant, one tenant. As you move out, you get a new tenant. They put it on the next tenant name. Tenant to owner. So I move out. The landlord not sure he might get a tenant, so he put it back on his name, right? Now, you see in a note there, you can be disconnected for failure to transfer. All right, well, that is just that of right now.
Somebody died and the light bill is on their name.
Right,
Now, how do you go about transferring because a number of
right. You're right. So that's my slide here now, Pastor. Right. See, like I know what you was thinking and what these people was going to ask me here. So transferring of an account deceased customer. So in addition to previous requirements, if no ownership documents can be presented, the following should be provided. A letter from an attorney confirming application made by the administrator or the executor, the letter of administration or the will, registered will or probate, a statutory declaration, the death certificate of the deceased, and you have to clear the bill. Right, so let's talk a little more about that. Very often, you know, Mike, where the mic, man?
Yeah. You're living on the land for over 40-something years.
Right,
You're paying the light bill on your name.
right.
You have no deed, and you want to transfer it.
Mm-hmm.
What is the
Now,
procedure
but you're transferring to whose name?
on your daughter's name? Because remember, you're getting older.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes we would accept an affidavit in a case like that, right? But although you live and you're born and you grow there, you haven't done what they needful to get, you know, proper documents, you know,
Listen. Tried,
and fail.
yes, paid, you know, I've been paying the land tax for the longest while, for years. Went up to Port of Spain, checked, until a gentleman in Port of Spain in the land and survey
Yeah,
told me, madam, nobody is interfering with you.
stay
Leave
right.
that alone.
Well, right, but
Listen,
no.
because listen, you are getting every other person's documents.
Right.
But you cannot find it. And here now, you paid the land tax. The print system here. A lawyer gave you $5 to pay to get it. They search in print system yet, although you're paying that, you're not finding anything. You search in San Fernando, nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. So, now, ideally, you don't have the right to give authorization to transfer to your daughter's name, right? But I'm sure your daughter would have born and grow right there,
Yeah.
right? That's a unique case, right? And I would like you, if it's your business that you're talking about, right, go to San Fernando office and ask to speak to Mr. Graham and explain the situation, all right? Walk with all the documents that you have, right? And we can see how best we can help. Tell them Mr. Bechu sent you, all right?
All right. Okay, thank you.
Right? And there are many cases like this, unique cases where people don't have proper documents, right? But we ain't breaking no law, right? Once we could help you, within reason, because I ain't doing nothing to lose my work, because all you can't pay, and all you can't pay my pension. You see, can me say I work in Tiantec for so long, yeah? And hear me, I'm almost ready for pension, 2 years again. So yeah, I ain't going to do nothing to disturb that.
Yeah,
And don't ask me to do nothing to disturb that too.
I paid a Muslim woman in Port of Spain
Uh-huh.
$600 to do the searching. And this woman gave me, I went up to, she told me she's finished. When I went up to Port of Spain, she gave me back documents. But I did not open the documents when she gave it to me. When I'm coming down the road in the bus, and I opened the document, well, I could have got a heart attack. Because I am living in St. Julian, and they
Right.
gave me something for on the Indian Walk Road.
Oh.
But I went back up there, and I didn't play with that woman. Because I pay my $600 and
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah.
And I
So
sure
when I
that,
finished, I went to the land and survey, and there the man, he searched, and he told me, he said, madam, he said, if nobody's interfering with you, he said,
stay
leave
right
well
there.
alone.
Yeah, but and as now you want to do business,
You do business, you cannot
Yeah.
do it.
So the bill is on your name right now.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to get to know how the bill got on my name, yeah, but it is on my name.
I feel you better hand back that Mr. the mic, Because you see you're talking there, and as the mister say, madam, nobody troubling you. Stay easy there. You know they say, let sleeping dogs lie. Yeah. Right. So, in case with deceased transfers, we would write you, right? Our credit control section will write and say, so and so we noticed on the newspaper. And as always, note a writer. We have a section called credit control. That's under my purview. And we would go through the newspapers, right, and see all the memoriams, people putting up 1 year after and whatnot. And we also have a link with a legal affairs, where we would know the death certificates and so on. And we would check our system to see if this person was an account holder, and that's how you would end up getting a letter saying to come in and transfer, right? Now, if all your paperwork in order, well then fine. Yes, ma'am?
My husband is 6 years now, and the light bill is still coming on his name.
Right.
And my daughter went to get it transferred on her name,
Right.
and she is not getting through. And what she would have to do to
No, well, tell me, what is the situation? Who is the owner of the property? Now, it starts with proof of ownership. So what is the situation?
proof of ownership, we have everything we have.
But everything on the husband name?
Yes, and well, when he died, I got a letter of administration,
Right.
and so what?
So after that, you never took steps to put the deed on your name. You never did that. You have only the probate or the letter of administration on your name saying that you got the estate. That's what you got.
Yes,
Okay. So you could use that. You have the deed on your husband's name, right? You have your letter of administration. You want to put the light bill on your daughter's name.
yes,
Right. So with those two documents, you could now write a letter, right? Saying that you're authorized, so you want to transfer the light bill from his name to her name because she is responsible for the paying of the bills and so on and so on. All right? And take those three things, right, along with her ID card and so on, and you'll be able to get through. If you're not getting through, you have my name, right? Only remember, call my name, Because everybody know I like to help people. Right, and as I told the lady there, Mr. Graham in South, so that is the commercial officer. When I moved to Port of Spain, he got my position, right? So even if you go there and you get in trouble, just tell them, call Mr. Batrew. But you only had 2 years to do that, eh? Yeah, because in November 2027, I'm a retired man.
You can't have a joint account with
No, we're working on that. But right now we only allowed one. You only allowed one name on the account, right? What we do to help with that is we put in care of your name on top, in care of so and so. But sometimes even, I mean, everybody need a light bill or utility bill to do business. What, you know, in the bank, license office, all kind of thing. And sometimes even that don't work, right?
But my father died a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have all those things you ask for the transfer. We don't have all his family land passed down. All we have is a certificate to use to what the process to get all those stuff.
So whose land you living on?
Thanks my father school on the line.
Right, so you all have any paper at all, even from for the person who initially, like, that might be a great grandfather or something?
When we went checking, they tell us go by since Long Terrace, when we went down there, it was already died.
Mm.
So it just, as we go along, it just one road look after. So I shop on, I just okay, stop. But as we talk about it, you know, am I able to get
Right. So there are instances where we could use an affidavit. Go in again to this office because you need to explain your situation, right? If you have some sort of paper from way back when, great grandfather, so at least you could show that this coming from lineage, you know. But you all, I mean, a lot of time people really never take steps, you know, to bring these documents up to date because it's a time-consuming thing and a costly thing too. So I would understand why people just leave it so, you know. Yes, she would. Yes, she would have. She would. Yes. Use the daughter she wanted to transfer like bill on or her.
Mr. Bechu, I have a sort of problem. It's not a problem really, but a situation that I think I want to share because somebody else might have it. I and my husband own a piece of land. We built a house for my son, right? We put his name, we give him permission to have the light bill, and he died.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do?
Well, you want to put it on whose name now?
Well,
So-
nobody say put-
So you might have to transfer it back to
What
your
we do,
name.
We put it back in our name.
Yeah.
Or,
Walk with the documents and come in
or
and
put
transfer
it
it.
on his children. He has children. Put it on one of his children because we intend to give the children the house. And
But
we
you all
own
have the
property.
deed for the property that the
Yes.
house is on? Well,
Yes.
right, so whoever you want to put it on, but I mean, they are adults, right? The children.
Yeah, they are 20 and 29.
Right, so they have ID card and whatnot. So yes, you
Yes.
could, if you all decide to do that, then you write a letter saying that you want to get the bill transferred from Mr. So-and-so to so-and-so name, along with the death certificate. In this case, you will also have to now send a copy of your deed, right? A copy of your deed, a copy of your ID card for signing the letter, all right?
Okay.
And yes, you could put it on one of the child name. All right. In addition to this, what we also like to see is, you know, the receipt from the court where you applied for the letter of administration. Because very often people will go and they tell the lawyer, well, you know, file for the probate, right? Or file for the letter of administration, sorry. But they actually never do, and the lawyer charges you $400, you pay for that letter. But you never really file for no letter of administration, right? So we also ask for the receipt, right, where the attorney really filed in the court, right? So we know then, in that case, when you do the affidavit, the thing is in train, and these things take years, you know, before these people come through, but you could get your transfer done. All right, any more questions on this? I know this is a hot topic. Kemi really did tell me, you know, people will have, so, yeah.
It is my experience that the Kianta, they are very inconsistent in how they treat with the minors' property issue.
Yes.
They have to appreciate that there are some heirs that they never even saw the grant.
Mm-hmm.
All they know that is great grandfather land. They have sometimes they have persons who superintend the land. We know we have
Right.
to go to Uncle X.
Whoever, yeah.
Yes, he's the
And
person
he
who
might have,
over the years
right.
have been given permission. You go to him, he give you permission. Last year, he gave X permission and the authorization. They build, they got their supply. This year, I have built, and I am going for that said permission. I point out to them, well, last
Yeah,
year
yeah.
we
Your
got
family
through.
get through. Yeah.
What is the situation now?
Right.
And I know a young lady in Lengua for about 5 years running.
Mhm.
Every time she say, well, I hope by this Christmas,
You'll
and
get your
letters are
lights.
being written on her behalf. The person who's superintending, you're showing them letters where they have issued
A permission.
permission,
Right.
and they connected. And yet some persons
So
they-
you all go, let them go to San Fernando office and speak to Mr. Graham. That's the commercial officer there, right? Yeah. Because I mean, I did you come in a bit late, or you here from the inception? Yeah. Right. So you heard that I made mention to miners' property in Moruga, right? And where people don't have title, right? And you know we allow the affidavit, right? Once it's not private land, right? But once you could show, and as you said in your instance, you know the superintendent of the parcel gave permission and whatnot. So to protect us, in addition to that letter, we would let you go and do an affidavit saying, you know, you're living on the land so long and whatnot, undisturbed. And there are 2 indemnity clauses that they will put in, right? And that is to say, and those 2 indemnity clauses is that you cannot, if any injunction is to come, you know, we would not be liable, but you, right? So that would just concrete everything so that you will be able to get your supply. But you're okay, you have the supply or you don't have the supply now?
I'm talking on behalf of persons.
Oh, you're talking on behalf. Yeah, but that's what they need to do. Yeah? But a lot of people, yes?
Question, is there anything different that you need to know where the transfer of the account from this to somebody who is not resident here?
Now, the thing is, in order for the account to be transferred to your name, you have to sign a contract. So you're speaking about if somebody's living abroad. Right. So when that person comes to Trinidad, then they will have to come to look to conduct that transaction. We wouldn't, they can't do it from up there. Not yet, we haven't arranged for digital signature on those contracts and things, so on. For now. Mm-hmm.
There's a statutory tenant, and the landlord, they are resisting that statutory tenancy now, and they want the person off. The initial tenant is deceased. Their son is occupied.
Fine.
The landlord, well, not the original landlord.
The
somebody-
new landlord.
The new landlord who inherited by the intestacy. They now went and took the account off of the original tenant's name.
Which is the man's son, right?
No, which is the man.
The man.
Yeah, because
uh-huh.
it wasn't changed from the deceased.
Oh,
to the
it did,
son.
oh, okay.
They took it off the name of the
Deceased.
and put it on their name
Right.
in order to prevent, and trying to prevent
The son,
the son
from
paying
the light bill.
paying the light bill. So when he goes and he pays the bill,
Yeah.
they have raising issues now. But I told you not to pay. It's on, so all kind of thing happens in this.
Right.
place.
So that is a private matter,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
was asking for the circumstances under which Kiantech would only because of the fact that the person may show proof of
Yeah.
title,
yes.
and they could just take it off the
Yeah,
tenant's
because we don't like to keep accounts on deceased name, right? Because somebody has to be held accountable. And if this gentleman has the proper title for it, right, and he comes into us and he produces the death certificate, which you know you could go and get that certificate in legal affairs, and he has the deed for the property, right, and he come and take action before the son, we would put it on that gentleman's name. Now, people do that because people do unscrupulous things, you know. But the son, who is living in the house, almost kind of, I mean, I have experience and I'm almost certain that this new owner probably want to get this fellow out of the place. Right, you see? Right, and that is one way. But the thing about it is that eventually if he decides to come and request a disconnection and we show up on site and they see that there is people occupying, they will not disconnect. Right? But legally, once an account is on somebody's name, whoever is the account holder, right, our legal department has advised us that if that person requests a disconnection, then we have to disconnect her. Yeah?
Even if they request
A disconnection. Yeah. The account holder. Right?
So then why should I be able to only go and put the account on my name when the tenant is a legitimate tenant, put the account on my name, and then go to Tiantec and tell them to disconnect, and they come in to disconnect without appreciating.
Well,
that
that's
I've
what
been
I'm saying.
occupying here
No,
for
remember
40
I
years.
started by saying legal here,
Yeah.
right? But it's humans coming to do the job. And when the crew come and they see that this fella there and they might see, you know, and they will say, hello, hold on, we didn't request no disconnection, they will stop. And then now the son will come in and say, hey, listen, I live in so, and this man, you know, now buy the property and he want to get me out. Then we will send it to our legal department. You understand? Kemi?
I'd like to know how you go about when a person die overseas
Mm-hmm.
and a person in the house and is paying on the
Deceased name?
deceased bill. What do you have to do to get that rectified?
Well, it's the same thing will apply. Once they have the death certificate, I mean the death certificate in this case will be a foreign death certificate, right? But once they have the ownership documents and so on, right, and that death certificate, they would be able to apply and get the account transferred. Once their name is on the deed or so, I don't know the situation. But, I mean, you're talking about the person dying abroad. Even if it's a foreign death certificate, if the account is in Trinidad, the person can have the account transferred too. All right?
I'm not talking about the certificate of payment that they usually do. Certificate of payment that when someone wants a connection, that they send them to get that certificate of payment at the revenue office. So the attorney usually have to-
The certificate, assessment certificate. Right. So we use that as well in instances where people have no ownership documents. Right? We will send you to the warden office, go and get the assessment paper. What that shows is in the warden office, they will check their roll and whatnot and see who was the last bona fide owner, landowner, and building owner. Right? So with that, like let's say in this case, the son who is living there, right? If he goes to the warden office, more than likely the house might have been the father's house, right? And that is
then he
on
has to pay,
the
building
taxes, right?
the-
back
for the
back
house.
then,
So you can,
right?
you can get evidence that
So
they
the
have been
father,
paying
right? So the
in his
father
father's name.
had, yes. So the
Yes.
father was the owner of the building, right? And that will help with an affidavit, but TNTech really deals with whoever is the owner of the land, right? But there are instances where we use the certificate of assessment, the assessment certificate, to help, do an affidavit, because that supports the affidavit, right? So what we try to do, especially in these instances with deceased accounts, is try as much as possible to see how we could have the account transferred to, someone's name. But, you must be doing something within law, right? Okay, so we moving on? We good? Right, so disconnection and reconnection for non-payment. I ain't gonna spend much time on this. You all know, once you don't pay your bill and it show up, all right, as a res, TNTech could come and disconnect you, right? Now, that works out to 4 months after you use current and you didn't pay, right? Because we bill you 60 days after. Remember, the bill that you get is for 60 days gone, right? And that's your current bill. If you didn't pay that, right, so that was current you used 2 months ago, And if you didn't pay that for the next further 2 months, that shows up as arrears on your next bill, and then you will be on the disconnection listing, right? So that's if you didn't pay your bill 4 months after, right? But I know we are good people, law-abiding, and we want no real truck showing up by your house. You pay your light bill on time, right? Disconnection. It is that is a standard thing that we put on all. Once you didn't pay, right? Yes. Yeah. Once you don't pay and your bill has arrears, that notice automatically will print on your bill, right? To give you an alert to say, hey, come in and pay. All right? Now, if you are disconnected and you didn't pay, if you're disconnected for non-payment and you didn't pay your bill 1 month after, we will remove the meter, right? 3 months after, we will come and cut the secondaries, meaning the wires to the house, right? Now, if you are disconnected for more than 3 months, then you have to get a re-inspection, right? So, if you are disconnected, try and don't let time run, okay? Try and get the money now. The thing is, we can offer you an arrangement. Let's say you're not able to pay the monies, all the monies, you could come and do an arrangement, get back your supply. Even if it is that, something happened and you're not able to pay all your money in one bill, right? Come into TNTech and talk to the CSRs, right? We would offer an arrangement, okay? So that, you wouldn't get disconnected, but you'll get a little time to pay, right? Until you catch back yourself. Right? The RIC has made provisions and the commission abides by that. Right? Customers do find financial hardship and we have to find, ways, and this is one of the ways that we do it. Okay? But don't go and tell everybody. Because you know what? Everybody going and say, well, I have no money today. Now, I'm talking frank, I'm talking straight. And you all could understand, right? Because, there are people who will say, it's so TNTech offering a ring. Well, I go and tell them I can't pay. And, so that's why All right, so reconnection 3 months and over. I spoke about this before. You must have you have to get the place re-inspected. And the reason for that, and it's for your safety, because there's now a safety hazard. If you are disconnected for more than 3 months and it's so long the wiring on thing, rat could go and chew up wire and all kind of things. So that's why they come and we ask you for a re-inspection. All right? Some instances, you will have to do back a survey, right? If we cut down wires and everything, we have to come and check back to make sure that you didn't move. The point was in this corner, you didn't move it and put it so, and things like that, so we have to do over a survey. All right? This is disconnection on request. So a customer may request the disconnection of a meter and secondaries because they may have vacated the premises, want to demolish it. So that's pretty straightforward. You're breaking down the house, you come and you ask for disconnections, right? So this is another service that you could get in the service centers. All right, so remember I talked about other avenues to pay your light bill, right? So we're gonna touch a little bit now on the online services. All right, so the first one is the TNTech mobile app, right? I think I've seen some people shaking their head. So that's the new thing there now. You could go on the Google Play Store and download it, and you could make all your queries and so on, the pole leaning, you can make your report there. The meter not working, you can make the report, right? So the mobile app, yes?
So I went on the mobile app, right? I have a little scary situation. I went on the mobile app, I made a report for the longest while, and I haven't been contacted. So it's a little ticklish story. So on the side of me, there's a vacant property. The owner would have died.
Right.
One of the nephews was living there. He left and the house, well, TNTech disconnected the electricity.
Right.
But there's a house in the back of that house.
Mm-hmm.
and the owner would have allowed them to purchase a private pole for T&Tech to run electricity to the house at the back.
Right.
Now, the pole is leaning to my house.
Mm-hmm.
It's only being held up basically by a cherry tree.
Okay.
So the people at the back now doesn't want to come into T&Tech because the pole is not on their name, it's on the deceased name. But it's posing a hazard to my home, and well, with the hurricane season, there's high winds and so forth.
The ground
I made
soft.
the report, but to no
But
avail.
did you go into the office and make the report?
No, I didn't go. I called.
Huh?
and
You made the report, Kemi?
Right,
Okay.
I called as well, and I still did it on the app, and well, but no
So
one is.
we probably have to touch base with the south, maybe the construction or the utilization section, because they will have to send a inspector to look at that. All right? So, well, maybe we could follow up on that next week.
Yeah, it's also awesome.
Yeah? Right. So, yeah, so you all familiar with the mobile app, where you could do anything with that. You could actually pay and so on. The next online service we have is e-billing, right? Where you wouldn't get your bills in the mail, but you will get a notification on your phone, right? So you know when to go and pay and so on, right? That's e-billing. And you have the ability to print your bills at home once you have printing facilities and whatnot. All right? So we have about 30% of customers of that 500, well, not the 500, the 426 on the e-billing system right now. All right? And we are trying to get more people to go onto that system because we will be saving, we're saving the paper and the postal and so on and so on. But
This may be beyond T&Tech, right? But what I'm trying is, we have a lot of, no, seriously, maybe beyond T&Tech. We have a lot of state enterprises moving to the e-billing platform, which makes sense. The problem is, we also have ministries who still in the storage.
yeah,
And so, if you go to renew whether it's
yeah, you need a light bill. Yeah,
they want an original paper bill.
yeah, yeah. So, right. So to balance that, you come in and you get a bill, a printout of a bill, right? Because for license office to renew your permit, you need a bill. Yeah? So a lot of customers come in to get a paper bill, all right? But you have the facility, once you have your printer and thing home, you could print your bill. But the thing is, you have to take the paper and turn it around so the back of the bill will print on the same paper, right? Right? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So what people let's do is they let the front print on one paper and then the back print. Yeah. No, but I think license office they just want to see, but that's how they know if. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes customers even have to come first to put a stamp on the bill too. That's how ridiculous they could be sometimes, but we will do. We have even written to the banks and we wrote license office as well to tell them, we offer this service, so it's a genuine bill when the customer print the bill. But
Okay, I have one little problem, right? Since I built my home, I never realized that I do not have a house number on my bill.
right.
So now that sometimes my son will have to use my bill, they are telling him that they can't use the bill because it does not have the house number.
Okay, so you need to.
What do I have to do?
Well, you have to go to TT Post for that. Yeah? So they will give you a card.
I have a little problem with it. I don't think it's bigger, but recently I changed my meter, and the bill went down well lower. Now I don't need the dryer. I don't use the dryer because I may have real breeze. But
The bill going up. The bill going up.
going up the road.
Right.
So I want to know if it's the
Is the air conditioned unit, girl?
no. I just try my best only in the night. You know, when the ladies going through the little
Right.
put it on and you take it back up and then use
So
the fan.
hear what you telling us that here, but you know what? On weekend when everybody home,
I
I-
knew also the Lord. And
No.
have an ex-
so wait, hold on. So you're allowed one free test every 4 years. So if it is you think that the meter going crazy and you really are using all that current, you could come and request, well, whoever is the account holder, right? They could request, right? You could request to get your free test done.
All right.
Right? Just to make sure that you're to satisfy your mind that you know are really using the current and are using the AC more. So this gentleman have she have one more. She have one more.
One more. And when the neighbor
Mhm.
using his, like he's doing well.
Right, and yeah, and you getting
But
flashing.
me, I get any flashes on the in the house.
Right, so you need to call and make a report of low voltage because that happens, right? From time to time, and that has happened mainly in the night time. Oh, when he welding. Okay, yeah, well, they will have to come and talk to him and him because he does, and so more than likely it's a low voltage situation you have there, you're experiencing, so you need to make a report so they could check that. Yeah, we have had situations where we had to talk to these people who welding, you know, they need to stop or come and seek to get the upgrade, right? And organize to get a transformer and so on. Right.
Okay, so we just take 2 more questions, right? So this guy's hand is up here.
Mr. Becho, with respect to the e-bill,
Uh-huh.
the e-bill do not look like an original bill.
Right.
Because everything is in black and white. And you know, when you print a bill, anybody could put together any
Anything,
document.
yeah.
I would like to suggest, just like your logo there,
Mm-hmm.
that is original, can that not be on the e-bill?
Well,
So that when you print the bill,
you get the
you get
yellow
the original
logo.
on the bill. Just that part alone. Everything else don't have to be in color.
I'll take note of that, right? So that it is not grayscaled. Yeah.
Okay, my question, I asked you earlier about state land, Caroni land,
Right.
right? About the meter, how you go about getting electricity. Or if you're living there and if you want another meter downstairs.
Right. So for Carney lands, you're supposed to get a permission, right? There's the office in BC. I don't think the office in Eugene operating anymore. And BC, Bridgeton Castle. Where it moved to? They're in town now? No, that is land settlement. That is land settlement. Yeah, that's the Commissioner of State Lands. What you're talking about? Yeah, that is Jatan Street. But you have to go to Carney, the offices in BC, to get a letter. Once, but whoever is living there, let's say it's you, like your husband was a Carney worker or something.
No, we have rented land from Caroni.
Carney, so you all had your lease and whatnot, the
yes,
agricultural
yes,
lease,
yes.
which I know by now will be expired and so on, right?
No, well, we pay
Yeah, that's nothing. But I know all those things have been outdated. So we would advise the customer to go and get a letter from Carney, right? Once they say they recognize you as the occupant of the land, you'll be able to get your supply, right? And that same thing would allow you now to get the additional meter.
Okay, and one brief, my husband died and the electricity bill is on his name, so just had to carry the death certificate and so on.
And let them know, walk with the same thing. The lease that you all had was on your husband's name?
No, that land is private land.
Oh, that's a
one
different.
have a deed.
Okay,
That
all
have
right,
a deed.
right. So that the death certificate, your name is on the deed as well,
No, my husband alone.
or his name alone?
Yeah,
And did you file for? Did you do a probate at all? No. Mm.
But he left a will.
Huh?
He left a will.
He left a will,
Yeah.
or which you didn't probate, right?
No.
Okay, so take that in, right? Ideally, you're supposed to, and remember I spoke about the receipt from the court where the attorney would have filed for the letter, the probate. So your name is on the will as the executor,
My daughter.
your daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, so she could get the light bill on her name,
Okay.
right? That certificate, the deed, the will, and go into the office. So they will have to couch an affidavit to suit that scenario, right? And once it have the clause, you'll be able to transfer it,
Okay.
right?
Thank you.
But it will have to go on her name as the executor.
It's okay.
Right. Moving on. Right. So apart from e-billing, so I'll take note of your suggestion. Okay.
Last one, right? Last one. Last one.
And then we move into the next slide. I have plenty to come again and all, yeah? We should have started, Kimmy, we should have started 12 o'clock. No, but then you would have to organize lunch. I understand why you put it for 3 o'clock.
My question is just that what TNT have strong policies against fruit trees or something?
No.
Because why I say that?
What?
Because
They
you know,
cut-
they tend to, when the fruit trees grow too close to the lines, they tend to cut it.
Right.
And they cut it left, right, and center. But right now you have a tree, need cutting, but like me say nobody come in. That's what I say.
But that tree not bearing.
Why I say that they only cutting the tree when it's bearing.
Yeah.
Right, tree they cutting it only when it's bearing. But this tree,
I don't know. Well, so I don't know, but why they didn't come to cut it if it in the lines? I don't know why, but I mean, TNTEC, given the act, right? The TNTEC Act allows us to cut those trees once it's going to cause a hazard to the supply.
just recently they cut a tree across the road from the line.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't paying, so no set a track to the line, but they cut the tree across the road.
No, well, I'm guessing, no, I am not a technical person, right? I work in the office, but I'm almost certain that when they assess the situation, if that tree would have fallen, it would have fallen and pulled down the line, eh?
I don't, because the tree leaning down down the hill. and the
Okay.
line on the hill.
Now, the thing about it is that TNTEC would normally want, compensate you for those trees, but the compensation is so small, right? Because it's next to nothing. But that is what government never updated, Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry never updated the compensation for those trees. So like teak trees and mahogany and things, it's small, small money that if a person would actually sell the tree, they would have gotten much more, you know. But forestry and so on, they never updated those price schedules for the compensations. But TNTEC do compensate when they cut customers' trees. Yeah. So automated credit card or payment facility. So there's a facility called ACCPF where you could set up so that your bill could come out from your credit card every month. Now, there are a couple of ways you could do that. There's a fixed way, a variable way, right? So let's say you know on average your bill is $400 every 2 months. You could set it where $200 come out from your light bill, from your credit card every month. Or you could set it up at a variable where when the bill is out and it's before it's due, the payment comes out from your credit card, right? That's another way you could pay. And then there's also the quick pay facility. You just go on the website or even on the app and you could pay on the quick pay. And it's we introduced that during the COVID to make payment a lot easier. And it has picked up traction and a lot of customers using that quick pay facility now. All right, so this is the mobile app. A little bit about the app. Some of the benefits, you could pay your bills, you have e-billing, you could view outages, and so on. You could make and track reports. You could request a service. There's also the energy management application. So TNTEC also has an application called the Energy Management app where you could monitor your consumption, see what your consumption is, and you could set targets and goals for yourself if you want to economize and so on. All right? Right? On the mobile app, you could do some of these things like make a report to change the meter, check the meter, rate change. All of the things that you could come into a service center to do, you could do that through the app as well. Right? So to get to the app, you go to the Google Play Store or the Apple Store, right? And you download, right? Right, so these two are two slides pertaining to the energy and the thing, but I'm not going to go into that, right? Here we have some energy conservation tips. We talk about unplugging appliances. You know, there's something called, and I'm sure a lot of us guilty of that, right? When you don't charge your phone, you leave the charger plugged in, right? Right? Right. That uses electricity, yeah? There's something called ghost load. So the mere fact that that charger is plugged in, current is being used, electricity is being used. Right? Yeah, something called ghost load. Ghost load, yeah. Ghost load, right? That the mere fact the charger is on but nothing is plugged in, electricity is being used. Simple as that. Eh? So right, and that's why I'm saying they call it ghost load. Yeah, ghost like, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Lighting, change your bulbs to LED bulbs and so on. Right? Like my friend there, she light bill going up, she find the bill all right, and she had dryer. Yeah. Yeah? Right. Yeah. Now, yeah, man. You see, heating things and cooling things is what has burned the most at our electricity. The fridge. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And the toaster oven and all, right? Heating and I don't think the microwave has burned so much, right, as compared to like a toaster oven or an electric oven. An electric oven has burned a lot. You deep freeze, and you know the children like to open the fridge and then decide what they want to drink and watch, as my friend say. All these things, uses the electricity, right? So these are things we need to be mindful of. So this is a little bit on the e-bill service, but we spoke on that. So I have some more stuff I want to get to. This is what the notification looks like, right? So these couple slides just go a little more into the services. I talked about the avenues to pay, like the ACCPF. So I talked about the variable, the fixed, or the one payment option, where you set your credit. You choose your option. Now the thing about this is, since with all this credit card fraud and all kind of thing, if you were a tenant and the light bill was on the landlord's name, you could have set up to pay the bill using your credit card. But because of all this credit card thing and the bank now tighten up, it's only the account holder could set up ACCPF now, right? So your name needs to be on the bill for you to be able to set up on this one, okay? So this is about quick pay. So these are about the emergency numbers. So you make trouble reports with 800 TTEC, right? Or when the street light not working, you call 800 bulb, right? I have some numbers there for Port of Spain, San Fernando, Point Lisas, and the different service areas, right? Right, so I spoke about the electrical inspectorate, right? And I said that's not it's separate from TNTEC. It's a government entity, right? And they are the ones to certify all the electrical installations. So there is a office in Port of Spain, right? The north office, northeast in Aruca. In south is in Masca building. The northwest office is in Port of Spain. That is in the MPU office on 1 Alexander Street, right? And then Tobago is in Shore Park Complex, right? Old Government Farm Road. So the MPU, well, are you all familiar with these? Our line minister. So the Ministry of Public Utilities is our line ministry, right? TNTEC and WASA and TIG fall, all the utilities, TT Post, fall under the MPU, right? The line minister is Mr. Barry Padarat, and there's also a minister in this ministry, Mr. Elder, Clive Elder, right? If you need any information on MPU, you go to the MPU website, right? So I want to talk about some of the services that the MPU offers. And the first one is the 35% rebate, right? So all residential customers, once you burn less than $300, once your bill is less than $300 every 2 months, is an automatic thing that you get this rebate, right? So I'll go a little more into this, huh? Right? And this, I'm telling you, 300, and it had, let's say you are custom, your bill on average is $500 or $600. It's hard for you to come down to 300, you know.
My mother, who is deceased, bill is 125.
Right. So
And now they're supposed to change it. That's how what's the bill of law? I would
no, but if for the 125, I'm sure that that bill is benefiting. Once it's a rate A, you will see it written on the bill, rebate. Yeah, just look at the bill and you will see it. That is an automatic benefit, right? Then there's the REAP program, Residential Electrification Assistance Program, right? And then there's the electrification program. So I'm going to go a little more into these, right? So the rebate is an automatic benefit for residential customers whose consumption is 889 units in a 2-month period. That equates to really $299, right? 890 units works out to $300 and a cent, right? But I'm giving you behind the scenes thing. So that's why the system, it says it works out to 889 units, so that everybody who consumption is up to that or under automatically benefits from the rebate, the 35%, right? Before, it was 25%, and then government increased the rebate to 35%. Now, how this thing works, for residential customers, it's automatic on your bill, right? And again, this was meant to benefit, you know, the low-income persons in society, right? And it really helps, right? But your consumption have to be low, right? But as we now install AC and dryer, you're getting no rebate again, right? No, that's not true. No, same current, same electricity, right? So once you are rate A customer, meaning a residential, and your consumption is 889, you will benefit automatically from this rebate, right? Another program, so you really can't see this, but there's something called the Utilities Assistance Program, or UAP, all right? And this is geared towards, so both WASA and TNTEC offers this for pensioners and people who are on social welfare or some sort of disability grant. Once they qualify, right, they could go and make the application in the MPU and apply for this. So I'm just going to read the criteria for TNTEC. Persons must be residential TNTEC customers, right, whose average consumption over a 3 billion period is 680 units or less, right? So if you are a pensioner, right, government have a program, this Utilities Assistance Program, where they would pay 100% of the bill for you, right? But your consumption must be 680 units or less. For 3 period, that is 6 months, right? So I don't know, a lot of people don't know about that, but it's there. But of course, they have to go into MPU and make the application for it, right? The account must be on the pensioner's name or somebody who, you know, as I said, receiving some sort of social welfare or something like that, right? Huh? In the Ministry of Public Utilities, right? MPU. That's 1 Alexandra Street, right? So when you go, you make the application, they will call us, right? And we will check the system and say, okay, yeah, the consumption is so, and that will be one step that, you know, closer to you getting the benefit. Now, once the account holder dies, then and they will get the death certificate, or you send the death certificate, it stops, huh? Right? It cut. So the MPU is the one who gives us the information as to whose name to put on this system and whose name to remove. We just manage this thing, right? And the government pays us. They take long to pay, right? But they just pay us, yeah? Even the rebate that you all benefit from, government will eventually pay TNTech. For that, we send them an invoice every month for the rebate, of how much rebate was administered for the month, for the billing, and how much rebate, or how much the UAP costs. So I tell you this, the rebate on average is over $4 million every month. So think about that, right? That's what the government have to pay, right? That the government is, well, what they are doing then for the less fortunate in society, right? And the UAP, this one, is about $150,000 every month, right? As I said, they don't pay all the time, but we just get the money, right? Right. So they also have a solar panel assistance program, where if it is that you apply for electricity and it's costing too much, right? Or if you know you're living in a real remote area, you could go and apply for the solar panel thing too, right? The ministry has that facility. Well, not a connection, right? You just don't tie it back to the grid, right? You must have some kind of transfer switch, right? So very soon, when government many years ago signed on to the Paris Agreement, that agreement says that Trinidad must be at least, I think it's 10% or 30% of its energy must come from renewable resources, right? And one of the things that they're looking into in time to come is that when people install solar panels on their house, the excess from that could feed back into the grid, and we would kind of offset, well, I don't know how that will work. So whatever you give us or you sell us would offset in your bill, right? But don't quote me on it, because we have not worked out the framework as to how that will work in time to come. But these things are coming, right? And that's where they start with the wind energy and take down in Mayaro and so on, right? So all of that government have to bring into thing because they signed on to this Paris Agreement, which is a good thing, right? Because honestly, Trinidad real backward with solar. Eh? When you look at how advanced those smaller islands are, yeah, Barbados, the Bahamas, and so on. Generator. Uh-huh.
To install a solar panel without receiving any electricity from TNTech?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because I think I remember reading something about that anything to do with electricity.
Right. So right.
TNTech is sole.
Right. TNTech is the sole one to give you electricity supply. But there are people who are introducing more solar panels and doing more of their house on solar. For a generator, however, right, a generator, you must have a license for that, right? But that is different.
Okay.
But I guess in time to come, there would be legislation regarding the solar thing, right? Because as they get more into it and where the whole long-term vision is that where we could be buying from customers, it will have some sort of thing where how you need to set it up and how that has to be.
Recognize a loss of revenue for TNT.
It is. You know, and when people like the CSRs thinks that they're working for a monopoly and everything is honky-dory and they could treat customers how they want, we just have to point out to them, hello, it have substitutes out there. It have other avenues for people to get energy and remind them about solar and so on, right? Yes? Generator. So we only administer that. It's really the Ministry of Public Utilities that grants the license. Yeah? So there's a form that you fill out and the big companies and groceries and so on, in order for them to put down a generator and set up a generator, they have to get a permit for that or a license. So the electrician would make the application. It will go to us from TNTech. It will go to the Ministry of Public Utilities to grant the permission for the license. Because the inspectorate have to come, and as the gentleman talk about a transfer switch, right? When that generator kick in, it have to kind of separate from the TNTech supply, because if the generator working and thing, it could feed back and kill somebody. You all remember a long, long time ago down in Chagaramas? Yeah? Yeah. Right, so the REAP program, Residential Electrification Assistance Program, right? So this is one that the government has, right? Like let's say, you're not able to rewire your house and your pensioner and so on. You could go and seek assistance from government to do the rewiring of your house and so on. And this is to assist low-income households and communities in accessing electricity supply, right? So this is for persons in need of house wiring, rewiring services, due to no internal wiring or faulty wiring and so on, they could apply to the REAP program, right? So the criteria for this, the total income for the household must be less than $6,000 a month, right? And priority will be given to pensioners or persons in receipt of public assistance, persons with disabilities, and people affected by natural disaster and so on, right? So this is another facility that the government has, to help the less fortunate in society. So the documents you need is to complete the application form, right? Copy of the ID card, your land documents for squatters and non-squatting households, proof of your income. Now, we don't process this. This goes to the MPU to process, and they would say who, yea or nay, right? But you could submit the forms by us, and we would send it across to them, right? So the electrification program. So this is another initiative that government has through the Ministry of Public Utilities, where it financed the capital cost for electricity supply, right? Where we would put down the poles, so you live in far, right? What you do, you come in, you get your estimate, your documents must be in order. Then you could make an application to government, right? Of course, it have criteria for this as well. Right, ID card, the completed application, the letter for the capital contribution, right? So you must have made an application to TNTech. And because that cost is so high and you're not able to afford it, you could apply to government, right? So the capital contribution instances, TNTech will process the under 50,000. Over 50,000 has to go to the MPU, right? Applicants must have a dwelling house or structure on the property, right? Proof of income, right? Job letter, pay slip, and so on. right? This is selling us the forms. We have the forms in the offices as well as in the MPU, right? But again, it's the MPU that process and administer this. We just facilitate, okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the RIC, and you all know about the regulated industry. So they are the overseer for the utilities, TNTech, right? And in order how they oversee us is they give TNTech what is called overall electricity standards and guaranteed electricity standards, right? The guaranteed electricity standards are things that TNTech must do. And we're going to touch a little bit on that, right? And if we don't do it, then we have to compensate you. The overall electricity standards are just standards that we have to make sure and ensure that we meet them. But there's no penalty for that when TNTech don't meet it. But the difference with that is if the RIC see that we are not meeting certain standards that are overall standards, they could very well make that into a guaranteed standard to force TNTech to meet it. Now, the reason for that is that so that ensures that the utilities are, effective and efficient, right? And that they are, giving you proper service, right? Because if we did not have something like that, I'm not saying that TNTech people lazy and things like that, right? But there's a purpose for all of these things. I mean, long time ago, before RIC, and I guess the service was not as effective, right? But now, many years ago now, and I mean, I ain't boasting here, but I mean, you all could think, how you all rate TNTech service? Right? And compare which one of the utilities is the best utility. Right, that's what I'm talking about, right? Right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the guaranteed standards, right? Right, so guaranteed electricity standards, as I said, these are standards. When we don't meet them, we have to compensate the customer, right? So the first one is what we call GS1. Now, response and restoration time after unplanned outage or forced outage, right? If it is more than 10 hours, TNTech supposed to compensate the customer $60. Now, this compensation, GS1, you have to go in and make that claim. Right? That is not an automatic claim. The others are automatic compensations. Right? But this GS1, if it is for some reason that you are out of supply for more than 10 hours, there's a guaranteed standard that says that we're supposed to compensate the customer $60. Now, you're getting $60 in your hand, eh? It's going on your light bill, right? So don't feel you're walking in there and say, Mr. Bechu, out of supply for 11 hours. Come up. No. We have to fill out a form. You have to sign. We have to do an investigation to make sure it really had an outage, when it went off, when it come back, see if it really make 10 hours. Because if it make 9 hours and 59 seconds, and 59 minutes, sorry, you're getting no compensation, So we have to make sure it's 10 hours and more. Now hear me, I really didn't want to put these slides in this thing, eh? But, I mean, these are things that the customer is supposed to know, right? And very often, we don't read and know all of our rights and so on, right? So that's why I thought it fit in to bring the part about the MPU and the RIC into this thing, right? So the next one, GS2, billing punctuality, right? So when you now get a connection, right, as a residential customer, I must bill you within 60 days. If I don't bill you within 60 days, I'm supposed to compensate you $60. Right? For industrial customer, if I don't bill you your first bill within 30 days, the compensation is still the $60. Right? Because the industrial customer is every 1 month. Every month is their bill. But as a residential customer, is every 2 months, right? So we do, you all will not see that, but very rare we have this happening, right? And that compensation goes on the customer's bill, right? So that's GS2. GS3, this one, well, we see, but not as often. I don't like to see this one at all. Reconnection after payment of overdue amounts or agreement to pay. So anytime you're disconnected for non-payment, right, and you pay your bill or you enter into an arrangement, I must reconnect you within 24 hours. If I fail, I have to compensate you the reconnection fee of $118. Right? So this one is a little more familiar to me because this is my field, our section, the commercial section, right? So our contractors are responsible for this. So that's why we make sure anytime somebody, they get disconnected, we try and reconnect them quickly. Sometimes the contractor might say, well, they leave that area already. You come on your pay, right? And they down the road on the next village, and you may have to wait till later on in the day to get back your reconnection. We tell them go back. Although, it's not profitable for them, but at the end of the day, it's the inconvenience of when you don't have your supply. So yeah, so this one is a little more under my purview. Making and keeping appointments is the next one. If you make an appointment for me to come and check your meter and you sign the book as an appointment, and I fail or I didn't call you to cancel within 24 or without 24-hour notice, meaning a day before, then I'm supposed to compensate you $60. All right? GS5, this is about voltage correction, right? Again, these are things that we have to compensate the customer if we don't meet the targets, right? Responding to written queries. So if you write and I don't give you an acknowledgement, there's another compensation for that, right? This one, GS7, if you pay for a connection, if you pay for a connection, I don't connect you within 3 days, I'm supposed to compensate you $60, right? And that's why you try and you see ways make. That's the that's what the RIC say. That's what we had to compensate all you. Huh? That? No, that.
Because situation happened by me was about 6 to 7 years that they knew that the transformer was even low voltage because they had more houses that had on extra onto the and it took about nearly 7 years, 6 to 7 years before they came and changed it.
Oh, okay. No, but this out a while now. This out a while now. Yeah, but yeah, right. And that's why I say this is not an automatic, right? The customer actually have to go. And remember I talked a little bit about, in educating the customers, because I know there are things that people didn't know about, right? Right, so this one, GS7, speaks to a new connection. If you pay for a connection, I have 3 days to connect you. If the reason I didn't connect you within that 3 days is your fault, then no compensation, huh? Right. And then the next one, GS8, is a compensatory payment. If I don't compensate you on time, then I have to give you our next compensation. $60. Right? Yeah, $60. Yeah? So you all don't go and lobby to the RIC to raise that now, Because that's revenue TNTech losing. Yeah? Right. So moving on. So these are the guaranteed. One more slide, we're nearly done. Right? How long are you talking now, Kimmy? About 2 hours, I didn't think I would have lasted so long. So these are the guaranteed standards that we abide by, right? So we have come to the end, and I close in with this quote from Mahatma Gandhi, right? And it reads, "A customer is the most important visitor on our premises. He is not dependent on us. We are dependent on him. He is not an interruption in our work. He is the purpose of it. He is not an outsider in our business. He is part of it. We are not doing him a favor by serving him. He is doing us a favor by giving us an opportunity to do so." So without the customers, we don't have a job, right? Now, the reason why I have this slide here in this is because when I'm doing training for the staff, the CSRs, the clerks, I normally open with this slide and end with this, just to re-emphasize the purpose and the role that the CSRs play with customers. Yes, I know there might be instances when you go and you find that you really didn't get through or this or that, but in general, our staff, are good people, right? And we are here to serve the customers, and we do that, right? And that's why I'm saying when you all spoke of your unique instances with the transfer and thing, I say come in and let us hear what it is and see how best we could help, right? So with that, yes? Mm-hmm.
Low voltage, high voltage, suspected damage to
Appliances.
What's the procedure
So,
Tiantec to treat that?
right, so you come into the office and make the damage appliance report, and an investigator will come out and check, all right, and then they will send it to our risk department, they will assess it. They may even tell you, well, go ahead and do the repairs and bring the bills, right? But you have to come in and make the report. But it all starts with you making the report, then they will investigate if it really had a low voltage fluctuation, a voltage fluctuation on that day at that time, and so on, and that. All of those things builds up to whether or not, they will compensate.
Because we did that all for the 7 years, certain things, quarterly, high voltage and low voltage, we were getting, and nothing came out of it.
Okay. Right, so I trust that I have, edified you guys a little bit, and you learned a lot about Tiantec. Right? I was a bit scared to come and do this, honestly. Yeah, but I have spoken in the past to, groups, and you all made it a lot easier for me. So all my fright went early after Kimmy said the prayers. Right, so I want to thank you all for being the audience that you are, and I am glad that I met some of you all and I'm able to help in some way. And do go down to the office and ask for Mr. Graham, right? And tell him I sent all you. He going to quarrel with me, He going to call me and say, Brian, you sent so and so. But we are here to serve. Okay, guys? So thank you all. And Kemi, back to you.
For taking time off from your schedule. I know this morning you was at the award ceremony and then you are here today. I know you had a pretty long day, so I really want to thank you and Mr. Lutchman for taking the time out to come and discuss with us about Tiantec. I got a suggestion while you were teaching that this session should have been during service on our first Sunday. All right, well, we have a bigger audience. I don't know how Pastor will feel about it being done again, but I really want to appreciate you for taking the time out to come, and we would like to gift you with this lovely fruit basket on behalf of Princeton Baptist Church, everybody represented here, as well as number 2 Association of the Baptist Union of Trinidad and Tobago. We would like to gift you with this lovely basket of fruits. We can't send it back home empty-handed for all those slides, for all those things that you did. All right. All right. And I really hope that he could come back and do it again sometime in the future before he retires. All right? And we would like to wish you a safe journey home, everyone. Thank you for coming out. And please remember to share the information that you receive. If you would like to discuss with him briefly before he goes any issue, you could do so now. Enjoy your evening and have a good Sunday tomorrow.